Alright, like promised, this is part 2 of the DSR Salmon River edition. Just going through some of the spots that I've detailed out in part 1. And this is part 2, just some footage. This is one of the feeder streams that I talk about in part 1. Had success in this little back eddy stream, and which cuts off the main river. So here I got a fish on, but basically just walk up and down, spotting fish. There's holes in this area too, so you can see how low it is, and being able to sight fish for these salmon. Also good spot for steelhead too. This is the second spot that I talked about in part 1. It's what I call the whirlpool. A lot of DSR improvements. You can see that bank over there. There's going to be another video of me walking along that. But they put that in, and they dug out this deep pool, and see how it creates this circular motion. So I call it the whirlpool. I'm not sure if it has a name, but in part 1 I detail out where this is at and also how to fish it. I have a lot of success here. Fish hold up in this pool, and you can see this is the lower part of the river, and there's not that many people. One of the reasons why I like fishing the DSR section of the Salmon River. But that spot right there, I'm not sure if you could see, there was a low spot and it goes into a deeper pool. It's really hard to land it on that edge, but here I walked across the river, and there's this basically these gravel beds right there, and along that opposite bank is where the deeper pool gets, but over here you can see it's a lot easier to land them. And you can see how my rod tip is bouncing. It's a good sign that, it's in the mouth and there's head shakes. And I go in detail in part 1 how I present the fly in that pool and to be able to get strikes. Yeah, the DSR is a beautiful place to fish. They keep it clean. The people that fish there keep it clean. I mean, you're paying for this access, so people appreciate that. I know I do. Yeah, so I don't bring any nets. It's a pretty far trek down where I fish, but I just try to get it on lower water so they can't swim out. Here it looks like the green Estes works really well. But when I fish that pool, I actually fish it with bigger patterns. Just let it flutter. So when you usually watch these videos and people fishing the Salmon River, you kind of get an idea sometimes, if you fished it before, where spots are. But in part 1, I break it out. So here I am back on what I call the whirlpool. And pretty much talk about where you could land these fish depending on where they run, and this one's actually running back downstream. And I go into detail about this bank, DSR improvement, how they added these tree bases here to create this deep pool. They dug it out, and here the salmon that I have hooked up is just, running me down the river, which is a good thing. But as far as making sure that your line doesn't get tangled up, or I had an incident a couple years ago where I almost broke my rod trying to work a fish down here. But once you get past all this, you're at a higher advantage, so you can get your line up, and you can see where the water is moving quickly. They'll stay in that, and not so much around all that wood. But as long as you keep your rod tip high, and if you have to get tangled up, you gotta let some line out, try to wiggle it out. But here, he's just taking me for a ride, walking down this ledge, and then eventually there's going to be an open area down below where it's easier to land them. Yeah, this is the lower section of the DSR. It's pretty much where the fish first enter from the estuary into the Salmon River. So these fish are fresh, they fight hard, but it's a pretty long walk from the main entrance at the DSR. And I go over that, look over the map on part 1. Just speed it up a little. You see right here, almost caught me. You really have to work around here. But this section, I'm using a 9-foot Echo rod, 9 weight, but it's early season, for the most part salmon are out here, but this section right here is really good for center pin, float fishing, egg sacks, skiing, and just floating it down the river, and the steelhead and brown just stack up in there. You can see the guides on their drift boats. Early season, they tend to come from the boat ramp that's down in the estuary, and they motor their clients up. But the great part about this section, the lower section, where a lot of guides take their clients in the early season, once they get a limit for their clients, they pack them up and they get out. So like 12, 1 o'clock. We don't see it later than that. They're out. And sometimes, most of the time, there's not that much activity when the sun's high in the sky and it's, midday. But there's been times where I've been down here, overcast, storm comes through, and it's just non-stop action. Yeah, you can see. Got it in the mouth, and originally when I was up top I thought I had it foul hook, but it was wrapped up. And you'll see here that he bit that. I believe it's a green Estes too. So looking at this, just this shot right here, it's like, it's a beautiful spot. All along the DSR is beautiful. But yeah, I think this is like around 335 CFS flow right there. So it's low, you can see the fish, it's manageable to walk through. These are pretty good conditions, but whether the water's low or high, eventually, and if it stays low, they're going to run. So it's all about timing of when you're there and when the fish are running. There's been times where I've been down in this section, nothing all day. All right, well, that ends part 2. Hopefully you enjoyed some of those clips. Hope you get a chance to watch part 1. It does go in a little bit more detail about where these spots are at, and also talks a little bit how I use Google Earth to help me, basically read the river and see where I could, possibly fish. And hopefully that will be helpful for you. Next week I'll be heading back out to the Salmon River, and hopefully I get on some fishing and be able to get some good content to be able to share it with you. But that pretty much does it. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and till next time.